Seraph17 once again. This is my Call of Juarez, bound in blood, very hard, difficulty walkthrough. This is Act 2, and it's called She Looked Like an Angel. It begins in Mexico, and once again we are imparting on our journey as Ray with our double pistols, and we'll be taking on a veritable buffet of gunslingers wanting to claim our lives. And this very first sequence is actually really fun. It's a sequence inside this, I think it's a bar or a pub. I didn't watch the cutscenes this time around, but there's people all around you on the balconies. Unfortunately, we're not going to be hitting people with chairs and smashing them through windows in a classic Western brawl. That doesn't quite happen too much in this game, even though you do hit somebody with a chair. So I suppose we'll just have to contend with the dual pistols and dealing some justice with our lead instead. But this particular section of the game is quite short. It's a 30-minute segment, guys, as we do the act. There's a couple chapters in here, and I can't remember if any of them have got any of those moments that make you go, Jesus Christ, I hope the rest of the game won't be like this, because I'm getting my ass kicked. I can't quite remember which ones we're going to be tackling, but we'll see them when we do. So the first piece of information I can give to you is that throughout the game, you're going to be upgrading your weapons to better versions of them, and you want to always scour the environment to try and see if any of the enemies you were taking on have got better replacements for you. It'll save you some money in the long term, and it will help you in the immediate, and it's just a good habit to get into. You're not going to find, I don't think, the best guns in the world on the ground, but it can certainly mean the difference between the RNG nonsense screwing you over too much when you shoot people and they don't react. So definitely something that can save your ass in some moments. One of the areas of this game that I would have really liked to see, and it could exist in some form and I've just forgotten, didn't realise when I was playing, it would be really nice if the people you had the gunfights with, the standoffs where you both do the quick draw to see who wins, those people would have been really cool if they had some kind of unique weapon for you to take off their hands and then carry through the rest of the game. And it would be really nice if there was some kind of hidden bonuses or features or alterations to the gun that give them some kind of passives that make them unique and interesting. And they could have had really nice, different designs on them, maybe plated with nickel or brass or gold, or some kind of highlights with engravings or something fancy on them. They could have gone really crazy with it and gone all overboard with pearl handles and gold and silver highlights and who knows what else, It would have been pretty interesting. They didn't go that way, which is fine. It's a little bit more grounded in realism, a word that most games in 2019 are cramming down our throats as a defender for having questionable mechanics, but in this it's just kind of adhering to the time period, and as you can tell by some of the pistols you pick up, especially the rusty ones, a lot of them are kind of beaten down and neglected and not looked after, and it's kind of the theme, which I think the game pulls off really well. Another thing I should talk about, which I pretty much forgot to talk about before, is accruing the Deadeye meter, or the focus meter, or concentration meter, that in the top right that's ticking down right now. So I did explain how when you get a few kills, it will fill up those ghostly skull bullets up there, and when you get a full holster of them, or a full 6 chamber of them, you can unleash a really powerful move. And I feel like the way you want to play the game, if you can, is to get into the habit of filling the holster and then unleashing the move and having it be some kind of dance where you build a couple shots to stack that special move and unleash the special move to make the fights easier. But one thing you'll notice when I play is I kind of get carried away and just shooting dudes, because I do enjoy the gunplay in this game as much as it does feel RNG at times, and the damage you take can sometimes feel random too. There's just something nice about, the dynamic cover, the dual pistols, the shooting people, and, popping around and just getting really into it and trying to be quick on the draw and quick and fast and loose and putting people down. So I just forget to use it, and then whenever I get into a situation where I feel like I might take damage quickly or I've overextended and put myself in a bad place, I'll use it to recover, and I'll use it to give me breathing room and then hopefully kill as many people as I can. But you can definitely use it a lot more effectively than you'll see me using it. There was a part of me that wanted to not use it at all and add it to restrictions on this run, but I didn't really gain much from doing that, because I already do that enough as it is. So by showcasing it a little bit, hopefully it will give people an idea of the bits of diversity that this shooter has that you might not have necessarily noticed, as I do this gymnastics to stand on a barrel, shoot over a wall, which There's a really floaty jump in this game. It's kind of interesting. I mentioned on the other video that I've been shot before I landed when I jumped and instantly killed, and it kind of put me off doing it, but the jump is surprisingly high and lofty. And it could save your ass. It could put you into a position where good old Troy Baker's not backing you up and you need to see some things, so you have to get some shit done. So never be afraid to use your navigational tools. And also, guys, if you're not a big fan of commentary, I know it's not for everybody. My channel's founded on commentary. I've been doing it for a very long time, and a lot of the people that are regulars here that like to watch my work, they come to expect it. If you're not a fan of commentary, not everybody is. I do usually put up alternate versions of these walkthroughs with no commentary on them. And I do that for the people that don't like commentary and who still want to, check out the project and maybe get helped by it or enjoy the gameplay. And the people who like commentary and don't understand why I do that, I don't do it because I want to be lazy, guys, or because I want to, double dip on the views or anything, because let's face it, I don't get views as it is once, let alone twice. It's just purely to make it a little bit more palpable for people that don't necessarily want it. I want my work to be appreciated by as many people as possible, and some people just don't want a very verbose Englishman rambling on them the whole time. It's just the way it is, and that might be blasphemy to you, but to them it's just unwanted. As we come up to another one of these slow motion moments, the detection on these are not so great. What I'll do in this video that you might have noticed is oftentimes when we get to those doors, I'll put an edit in there so that it'll jump to us doing that opening sequence, because the amount of times when it doesn't trigger and you have to wait for your brother to get into position and he's stuck somewhere and it takes him like 40 seconds to get to you. I didn't want to keep that in the video because there's no reason to. It's just a waste of mine and your time, and hopefully I like to think I respect you more than that. And as much as my time is plentiful at the moment, it's not that plentiful due to it being, the season that it is and some of the stuff that has to be done. But keep on shooting people, keep on picking up those ammo boxes and bullets as you can. It's a really good habit to get into as you move forward, moving across the corpses of the gunslingers you've put down, because if you don't, you'll run out of ammo in this game. And running out of ammo doesn't sound like the end of the world, but it can definitely be a problem. I'm also happy to report, guys, on this project that the stuttering is entirely on the game. I had no problems with the stuttering in the recording on this particular walkthrough, so that was cool. But here's another gunslinger moment, guys. Size them up, keep them in the center of the screen, keep your hand near your hip. And a piece of advice for these moments, they have to stop moving to draw their gun. So whenever they stop moving is when you should be anticipating when it's going to make the bell noise. And usually they move about 2 to 3 times, and then they have to stop for them to draw. So all I do when they're moving a ton is I wait for that moment when they settle, and that's when I'm waiting for that sound. And if the sound is there, I go for it. But do not feel bad, guys. If you lose those situations, it's not really your fault. I feel like there are times when the game goes easy on you, and it gives you a win. There's times when I feel like I reacted 10 times faster than a successful attempt and still got beat by the computer. So I don't know if it's one of those things where the game gets, easier as you lose a few times, or if it's just random in how quick he reacts. I'm not entirely certain as to how it works. But I do know there's a lot of the time where it doesn't feel very fun and very fair, and it doesn't even have to be on very hard for you to feel that. Which, watching this gameplay now doesn't even look like I'm on very hard, does it? Because I'm just murking everybody and killing them before they have a chance to shoot me. And this leads to the conversation I had a little bit in the previous segment. There are moments in this game where, especially if you're accurate and you're aggressive, you can get ahead of the enemy so quickly, and because Thomas is being a distraction and because you're not getting focused down, you can do some serious damage to these people, and the game is really fun even on its hardest difficulty. There's a part of me that wishes it was a little tougher, like it is on some of those moments that I've mentioned, and some moments that will come in some time to come. But I think it's a decent balance of moments where you feel powerful and moments where you feel vulnerable. Because I was really afraid when I was playing through hard on my stream that I was going to spend more time hiding behind boxes waiting for the regeneration to end. Because in this game, the regeneration is a very aggressive blinking screen, and you can hear Ray's breaths coming very heavy too and laboured, and it's a little boring, It's one of those things where in 2009 it was a relatively newer mechanic, this idea of regenerating health, and we were so lost in the fact it was different to picking up med packs and the like, that I don't think we minded it as much because it was fresher, but that was 10 years ago, and we've seen it in almost every variety it can come in, so it definitely doesn't feel as interesting as it did. And I do find myself getting impatient. But here's a shop, guys. I've got $1,400 to buy anything I can. I'm going to be swapping out my gun for a Prime Classic gun for $111. It's a 2-star weapon, and when we pair it with our, I think it's a 1-star Ranger we've got some consistent firepower with some damaging firepower, which is really, really cool. And that just there was actually an encoding error, so I suppose the stutters are still here, but just not the same kind of stutters. So that's good to know. But it was doing it on a door opening sequence, and if you're going to have any problems with your recording, which I seem to have every time I do it, I'd rather have it in an area like that than somewhere else. But keep on pushing forward. Ooh, that was an interesting one. I killed that dude so hard, he became wire itself and fenced off the entire horizon. That was bizarre. Oh, look, it's still doing it. This is interesting, because there's a glitch that's very similar to that in Black Ops 4 Zombies, where you kill enemies on Blood of the Dead, and they do that. They elongate and they stretch, and they become really, really strange and warped and contorted, and that's exactly what just happened then. So I'm glad I got that on footage. That's the kind of glitch you don't mind, because it's pretty funny. Now, if it was a soft lock or some kind of, adverse effect on your progress, those are the ones that are awful. But keep on pushing towards the chapel, put those guys down, and see what we can do. But yeah, as I was talking about difficulty, wasn't I? And the regenerating HP. This part of the game, I felt invincible. I felt really aggressive and really strong, and I even quit out and double-checked the save to make sure it was still on very hard, because I've played a lot of games in my time, and there's a few of them that glitch the difficulty down, and that's why it seems like it's much easier. But I feel like this is one of those games where when it rains, it pours. So there's moments where you feel like a god, and then there are moments when you go down in 2 bullets, or 1 bullet at least. So it's kind of interesting on that, and it leads to a replay ability that I don't think I'd realised when I first played this game, because I didn't realise that Thomas and Ray was that different. I felt like they were just, here's the one with the lasso who goes upwards, here's the guy with the double guns who doesn't go upwards, But there is some nuance to it that definitely makes you want to play a little bit more and see what it's all about. And that's one of the reasons why it wasn't too bad having to play through to unlock the difficulty. Because usually on PC, thankfully, you can edit a lot of things in like the config file. You can download other people's saves and pop them into your documents, and it'll give you certain things. And the amount of videos I've been able to make, really, really... Oh, it glitched right here as well. For some reason, Thomas stopped shooting. The game didn't do anything, and these people are attacking me, but I don't think they're meant to attack me. I think there's meant to be some kind of trigger here that wasn't working correctly. So it just gets really weird, and then when I see the people, I shoot them, but they don't register the bullets. And I'm just wondering what's going on. And then it goes to a segment. I think it's a quick draw segment. So yeah, this just went a bit squirrely, and I kept it in because it was weird. But that's the end of the chapter. There you go, guys. Chapter 4 is down. 17 minutes as Ray. 15 headshots, 71 kills. And that leads us into the... I think this is a quarry and a mining facility. This is this might be the longest segment in the game as we seek out Devlin. It is a very, very long sequence of gunfights in a quintessential Western environment. So I really do enjoy this level, and there's a lot of gameplay too. I don't think there's anything too dangerous to worry about. Use your dynamite if you want to, you get a lot of it back, and it's very, very effective. That's another thing I didn't see just then. See that? That's very hard for you right there. That's the kind of damage I was expecting from every single bullet I took. See this? This is when the game shows its claws. This is a much more... And I don't even know why. I don't know why just then I got focused so hard. Thomas is still with me. They weren't that close to me, but for whatever reason, there are moments when you really feel the difficulty. So if you're playing this, guys, and you're thinking, wow, this is easy, and then all of a sudden you hit a brick wall, it's just things like that. And just then, he missed me. I don't know if he was shooting at Thomas, but he had me dead to rights, and he completely missed. And when I see a moment like that in a video game, I'm always reminded of BioShock. And one of the things that the developers there were speaking about in a retrospective that I watched a couple of years after the game came out, where they mentioned in the original BioShock, the splicers, especially the leadhead splicers, the ones with the guns, when they first saw you, in order for the game not to feel cheap and to feel kind of bullshit, they made it so that the splicers almost always whiff their first shot on you. And then after that, they will hurt you and they'll hit you and they'll be accurate. But their first shot, that cheap shot of reacting like an AI can react, is something that will never ever put you in danger. And I always thought that was super interesting, because there are all these factors that video games do to make the experience more cinematic and more interesting and more fair. that you don't even know are helping you. They're these hidden hands that are guiding you through a game. And I wish developers were more open with this. I wish it was in the tooltips, explaining this to you. But I understand that for some people, it takes away the magic. And there's a lot to be said for immersion for some players. Players just want to feel like they're not playing a game. They want to feel like they're in the world, they're there. All the things that they were thinking out before don't matter because they're just focused in. And I respect that, as much as I don't need that at all. I love the fact that this is all mechanical, and these are all systems that are interacting with each other in this interesting digital landscape. To me, understanding the systems and seeing behind the curtains and behind the smoke and the mirrors, that's what fascinates me most, and that's the thing that I love and I have a real passion for, because I want to know why it works. I want to know why it works that way. I want to know, can I do this and manipulate that, and can I twist that and screw this, you know? There are so many things that make interacting with these systems and these worlds so much more fascinating when you understand what's going on, in my opinion. And this is a great example of it, a super good example of it. And there are a lot of systems, as I mentioned, that do this, and I know of a few of them, but I don't know in the games when they're fully realised, because a lot of the times you have to go to the developers and find out. Like, I've spoke about these before, but for people that don't have any idea that I'm talking, there is a mechanic that turns up in a lot of games where the very last bullet in your clip or of your stockpile of ammunition does increase to damage. There's no reason for it to do that. You're not using a gun that has that benefit. You are not a character that has a desperation perk or some kind of passive. It's literally put into the game so that in that desperation moment where you only have one bullet left and you need it to die, that there's a higher chance of that happening. And that is a legitimate thing that is in a lot of games. This increased damage on the final round. And you would never even know it, other than feeling that you got really lucky, and that was your last bullet and you needed it, and it came through. You believed in the heart of the cards, and boom, you know. You drew everything you needed and did some kind of crazy, ridiculous Exodia setup and won. But another one of the tandem door opening sequences. The guy in the back there, you're not meant to shoot, that's why he's not glowing, but I put a few bullets in him just in case. And I don't think this is the super long level, because I don't think we've gone through that segment yet. It might be a different one. Some of them look quite similar, because it is, you know, the Old West. But these mechanics that are guiding you and helping you that you don't know exist, some of them are easier to spot and easier to understand, and look, taking it from Bioshock again. In Bioshock, when you get hit and it breaks your shield, or it puts you to death, or one hit away from death, the screen and the HUD do a very specific effect of shattering, and in that moment, you're given a grace period. You will never, ever break your HP and go to one hit from death and immediately be double tapped. Never happens, can't happen, because they give you this grace period where you can't be killed, and it's essentially to allow you to react and recover. And it's a really, really cool mechanic and a really helpful mechanic, but it leads to the game being a lot easier, because if you could, you know, get put to a threshold of death and then immediately killed, can you imagine how much harder Bioshock would have been? And that's coming from somebody that I've beat Bioshock a lot. I think it's a fantastic game. I love it dearly. And I made a walkthrough for it on the hardest difficulty where I didn't upgrade my HP. You know, I went with base HP through the whole game. And I had a really, really good time doing it. And I didn't really die. I don't think I died. Like, for me, the hardest part of Bioshock is the very first bouncer, and it always will be, because you just don't have the tools to effectively put him down without risking a threat to yourself. And because you're so early, you're so weak, and you're so ill-prepared, it can go badly quite quickly. Whereas you look at a game like this, in this game, your guns get better and they become more effective, but it's only in the consistency of their hitting. It's not really in anything else. At the very beginning of this game, you can kill people in one bullet, 2 bullets. Your guns are always effective, are always dangerous, and you're always very capable. You know, so you are just as good at the beginning of this game as you are at the end. The only difference being is your guns are more beautiful. They've got more polish to them, a better luster, a better alloy, and maybe a nice grip on them. And every so often, that one time where you put 2 bullets in somebody, those 2 bullets kill that person instead of missing. No, here we are. We are going to the area I thought we were. This is a long mission, this, guys, and I've got 4 seconds to cash in on my move, and it's not going to let me. Depressing, but there you go. But push forward towards the minecarts, strip these guys down, do the reloads. Every time I reload, do that drinking game if you want to get smashed around Christmas. It's up to you. You could be watching this in July, who knows. But push forward, tentatively, use the cover. The environments here are so balanced and so fair. There's so much cover. There's so many opportunities for you to have the advantage. And if you're quick and lethal, you can drop these guys like Wyatt Earp and just get on with the rest of your day. But I wanted to talk about the new Witcher TV show, because I watched it recently, and I thought they did a really, really good job, all considered. A lot of people are critiquing it, a lot of people are not happy with it. But I thought, coming from somebody who had a big investment in the books and has read every book, I thought, considering there was so much information they had to put forward to a person who doesn't have any idea what witches are or what the world is, I think they did a rather elegant job of introducing a lot of things in a subtle manner and broadly covering them to the extent that a new person can see it, kind of infer what's going on, and then enjoy the show for what it is, which is, you know, super muscled dude with sword, kills things, and lots of boobs. Which fundamentally is what sells, isn't it? It's the reason why Game of Thrones got so popular. Every single time you got some interesting dialogue, they were like, look at the tits! Did you remember the tits? And they're like, oh my god, look at the tits! And then you kept watching, and before you knew it, you were invested in the characters. But right here, there is a little bit of a navigational puzzle. You have to use the dynamite to blow up the barriers into the mine. And the game doesn't make the barriers blink or flash or have a star on them to be too overt with what you need to do, so you can kind of get stuck there for a second. It's not a big mystery or a grand puzzle, but it's nice that it's done in a more subtle way. But you'll notice I'm playing very tentatively on a lot of these moments, and it's because I'm used to dying in 2 shots. And once you tell me I can die in 2 shots, it's going to change how I move through your game. But all you're seeing right here is evidence of Ray wrecking everybody in 2 bullets, and these people not even having a chance to fire back, which is really nice for me, but not so nice for the game and its challenges. You'll also notice I'm carrying a sawn-off. The shotguns are good in this game, but I don't recommend carrying them with Ray, because Ray's pistols have limited range, and you need a rifle to compensate for that lack of range. The shotguns have even less range, and they're really, really difficult to justify unless you just want to use them because you like them. One of the best reasons to use a gun in any video game, in my opinion, is because you enjoy the gun. If you can get something you enjoy, you can play for so much longer than just doing it because you're doing it. It gives it that personal feel. You get to project your own tastes into it, and it's that power fantasy, isn't it, of seeing something that looks cool. I think that's the reason why I'm not harsher on this game's reloading, because normally I hate reloading. I'm a big detractor of reloading in games, because I find you spend more time doing that than you do anything else, especially if you've got compulsive reload syndrome like I do. But nowadays there are a lot of games that give you things like extended mags or fast reloads or ways to go around it, which I really, really appreciate. And then you come to a game like this where the reloading is just all the time. But because they are old school revolvers, and because any enemy can die in 1 to 2 shots, you really feel like you're getting shit done. Oh, by the way, speaking of getting shit done, this is a marksman. If he sees you, you're dead. He can't hit you. He was killing me in 1 shot as Ray. I don't know what he was eating or what's in his gun, but this guy is a bitch. So you notice I waited for him to shoot, so I knew he couldn't one-tap me, and then I backed away from cover and hit him, back in cover. As soon as he goes down, the rest of this is simple, but he will kill you instantly. He's not a very nice man, that one. But I'm going to be flanking up this hill here, over this bluff, and then shooting down on some people, because Thomas is going across the other side, and we're going to pincer it and come together. And there's just going to be a couple more dudes as the game stutters a little bit. And we proceed onwards. Fall damage in this game is really dangerous too. Right now, I should have died. I don't know how I survived that. I panicked, so my shot went to shit, and I just kind of accepted that I'd lost, and I somehow managed to salvage it. But be very careful with fall damage. Isn't it funny that this guy can take on hundreds of these Mexican bandits, armed to the teeth, strapped with bandoliers and fantastic mustaches, yet he falls a meter and nearly gets like a femoral splash everywhere as he gets some kind of compound fracture that just completely cleaves his leg in two. It's so bizarre. The dude's getting shot at, he's getting hit by everything. He's fine, but if he drops off a little lip, he's done. It's so strange, and I suppose you could validate it with the plot, couldn't you? Because Ray doesn't like heights. Ray really doesn't like heights. He likes his feet on the ground. He's kind of set in his ways. So it might be psychological damage that he's taking, but I never understand fall damage. I just don't. And I play a lot of games that don't have it, so I get so used to being aggressive and just like running and jumping off of mountains and thinking, fuck it, like I'm just going to go and kill some people. And next thing I know, I just get splashed. So many games are bad for fall damage, and it does make you wonder, doesn't it? What's the justification for it? What do we really lose if we take no damage from falling? Like, because you can say the immersion. I can understand the developers not wanting you to go somewhere, so if you try and jump down there, you die. That happens all the time. They're known as death planes, aren't they? Kill planes, where if you touch it, your character's just gone. It's the ultimate Deus Ex Machina against the ambitious platformer. But in a game such as this, like, I don't understand, man. If he can get off a horse, and how high are horses? Horses are at least like 4 or 5 feet high, aren't they? You put your foot in the thing, in the stirrup, and you go up, and you're really high. If you can get off a horse, you can jump off what I just jumped off without buckling both your knees. Unless he's got osteoporosis or something. Don't know what's going on. But the game keeps telling you as well, use your concentration mode. It's like, guys, I want to, but I forget, and then when I remember, there's nobody alive. You know, you can't use something when there's no one to shoot. It'd be cool if you could stockpile it into something else. I feel like if Call of Juarez had a sequel, they would have expounded on some of those abilities and given you some interesting things. But when I think back to like the Cartel, which was really not a very good game, I didn't like that game at all. And then when I think of Gunslinger, which brought it back to, you know, the traditional style of Call of Juarez, which I made a walkthrough for Call of Juarez Gunslinger if you're interested in watching that. I don't really remember them doing anything all that new. I don't remember any straying from the path or any new innovations. I remember it playing a lot like this in many ways, and I remember people loving that because the Cartel one was such a departure that nobody wanted. Fun fact as well, just then, I was tempted to try and shoot the dynamite in midair, but I procrastinated and thought against it because I didn't want to detonate it too close to me, so that I killed myself. And then when I came out of it, luckily it wasn't close enough to kill me. Because the dynamite in this game, if it's anywhere near you, you're dead. And it should be that way. I am completely okay with that. One thing I'm not okay with is there are 2 bosses later on in this game that have perfect, omniscient, ridiculous throws. So you'll be nowhere near their line of sight. They've never seen you. You're behind a rock 9 weeks away in a cupboard that could have hidden Bin Laden for the rest of his life without the SEALs ever finding him. And they'll land directly on top of your forehead and kill you instantly. And it's one of those things where they throw it where you are, so you have to move the moment it's launched or you're going to die. And there's a couple of places you can exploit this so that they can't quite throw it to you because the geometry won't afford it. But at the time it feels like Worms all over again, where they're bending fucking rocket launchers with the wind and doing like figure eights and hitting you in a cave. And it's computer bullshit that shouldn't exist because they're just using ridiculous mathematics that I forgot the name of because I didn't pay attention at school to essentially beam me in a video game. If I'd have known paying attention to Pythagoras' theorem and geometry and everything else would have got me better at Worms, I might have paid a fucking attention, but I didn't, so enough of this, you know. What happened to Worms, man? There was Worms 2, wasn't there? There was Worms Armageddon. Then didn't they go 3D? I didn't play those 3D ones, and I really don't want to. You don't need to go 3D with Worms. I think Hogs of War nailed that. You don't need to... Why change the fundamentals of something just so that you can say that it's a new version or a fresher version? Like, do it as DLC so you don't go full hog into it just in case it doesn't work. And for all I know, that 3D Worms could have been the best one, but I didn't hear much about it and I never played it myself. I do know that Team 17 feel kind of anchored to that Worms franchise because it's one of their most popular titles that they've made, and I do imagine a lot of people ask about it, and it must get to that point where, you know, when a band is so sick of playing the classics that they want to play different things, but the crowd's just chanting for the one song they've played thousands of times. But it's not the fans' fault, is it? That's the hit. That's the thing you're known for. Interesting, I don't think I saw him when I was playing then. He's up on the balcony. See him on the rocks. There he is. Yes, sit down, friend. Ooh, there was a barrel too. I love that design. If that isn't video games, I don't know what is. That's the shit we're losing, that, ladies and gentlemen. Random barrels that explode littered around the environment to enable you to do some really effective kill. Some wet work on the fools that you have to fell in a level. I love it. I love it so much. I love it when there's that option. You don't even have to take it, you know. You can avoid it if you want. You can ignore it. You might not even realise it's exploding because the barrels in this game aren't always that obvious to tell that they're the type of barrels we're used to. If you don't paint the barrel red, how do we know it blows up, you know? These video games have made us dumber. This is a fact. But here we go with Devlin. This guy looks pretty sick. I like the look of this dude. But if you notice, wait for him to stop, Nothing. Wait for him to stop. Still nothing. This is it, this next one. Yeah, you get a feeling for it. When they've moved a certain amount of time, it has to ring. So, if you're struggling with any of those guys, you'll get to them eventually. Oh, and then we have this. So this chapter here, guys, is an open world chapter where you can go and do side missions to get money and to buy more things from the shop. Or you can completely skip it, it's entirely up to you. So that's the quickest chapter in the history of the game because I didn't partake in the optional stuff, but you can if you want to, and I recommend that you do it at least once just to see what it is. What a cool concept. What a cool foundation of something that could have been expounded upon in the next Call of Juarez, Call of Juarez 3. Let's do this shit in the desert, dog. Who knows what it could have been. But what did we get instead? Modern times, horrendous game. Thank you for watching. You take care now.